Today we have with us Neil McRae, Managing Director of Architecture and Strategy for British Telecom Group. He's the Chief Architect. Neil, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Blake. Very inspired by your presentation, and I used to think I was customer focused, but I've learned a lot in 20 minutes.
Well, thank you so much for that. You've had a really long-standing partnership with Juniper. It's helped British Telecom quite a bit, I've heard. Can you talk about the background of the partnership and why you chose to work with Juniper Networks?
Look, yeah, I mean, BT's been working with Juniper Networks. I mean, literally since Juniper started as a company that set out to change the networking business and be much more customer focused. Back when Juniper started, there wasn't a lot of choice. There wasn't the choices that we have today, and frankly, there was an incumbent that wasn't doing as great a job as actually the network needed. And for us to work with Juniper was really easy because they were focused on customer outcomes and customer experiences and improving the offer that we as telecommunication operators make. It made it very easy for us to work with them. And not only that, back to your point about listening to your customers, having worked with Juniper over 10, 15 years now, Juniper are huge listeners and will take ideas from customers, even ideas that are maybe perhaps a little bit borderline, take a risk and co-collaborate with their customers to build something that makes a big difference to our customers. And you're right to say, Blake, well, our relationship with Juniper is B2B, but my customers are all B2C.
Awesome. So you've got a little Elon Musk and, taking those customer ideas and really actually doing something with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think customers are the experts of using our service. And quite often we're focused particularly in telco land of, how do we sell it and then how do we bill it? Actually, the biggest part of the service we offer, Blake, is how do customers use our service? How do they take their smartphone out? What experience are they getting wherever they are, be it at home, be it on the move, be it at work? And we want to understand every detail of what they're doing, understand how we can improve that experience and all manners of what our customers are doing. And the platform that Juniper are announcing today really allows us to do that and get much more insight and actually go a step further, Blake, which is actually how do we predict what our customers are going to ask us for before they ask it and turn that into actually, customer, here's something you didn't think you need, but now you've got it, you'll never be able to live without it. And that's the kind of customer experience journey at BT we're trying to deliver. And with the platform Juniper announced today, that really helps us on that journey.
Right, because it's really about anticipating the need of the customer and personalizing it. Because Neil, you and I know that feels amazing when a company has done the extra legwork to think, what might we need next? Where are we going? Let's talk about customer experience in telco and telecom. We know when our networks don't work well. This is a very tough industry from what I hear. Can you talk about what a great customer experience in telecom looks like and how has that changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think a great question, Blake. I mean, the way I look at it is, and the way I picture service in my head is, when you go to a kind of a really top hotel and you ask for a cup of coffee and then mysteriously the cup of coffee appears. It's almost like it was beamed in from somewhere versus, a not so great place where you hear 15 people shouting, Fred wants a coffee, Jake wants it, and you hear all this kind of noise and they spill it as they're walking out. What the experience that we're trying to build in telco and in BT is very much that when you need something, it's there, it's available, you know how to use it, and the expectation that you need, we've already anticipated. Now we've got a long way to go. We've made telco too complex. We've given you too much choice. We've tried to be smart in giving too many choices when actually keeping it simple and focusing on the areas of value that customers want. Most customers want to know, how much data can I use, or actually, can I use my phone without worrying about bill shock? We've worked to in that direction hugely, but also we actually want to extend what we do into your daily life even more. So, many people think, what is a part does a telco play if I buy a ticket to a baseball game? And actually what we want to do is, from the minute we know that you've bought a ticket to that game to when you're seated in the baseball stadium watching the game and you've got a beer in one hand and a hot dog in the other hand, we want to optimize the network and optimize that whole experience from the minute you leave your home to the minute the game ends. And again, the platform that Juniper's building gives us that insight as to how do people behave in a baseball stadium? How do people want to get information delivered to them? How do they want to actually get to the stadium? How do they want to leave? And we've got a huge amount of data and insight, Blake, that we can use to not just improve the service for us, but to partner with that stadium that improves that whole experience of going to a baseball game.
Yeah, because now, Neil, the phone is part of the experience of the game. Like, if you left your phone at home and you're at a baseball game, I would think that would be a huge tragedy.
Yeah, you probably, your tickets are probably on it. Your Uber app to get there and back's probably on it. Or if you're meeting friends, how do they know where to meet you? There is, and if you're using a payment scheme that's on your phone, we've become so dependent upon these devices that, and that when we don't have them, it's very challenging. But, we're all about trying to understand what the behaviors are and using that knowledge to make the next step of every customer or every end user's journey a much easier step. And we've had some great successes. So I talk about baseball as an example. Here in the UK, soccer's the big sport here at Wembley Stadium. The scenario that I just envisaged, we've actually deployed that. We optimize our network from when people get off the train at Wembley Station all the way into the stadium and all the way back out. And yes, it does require you need your handset. But I think that's one part of where we're headed in customer experience. The other part of customer experience is actually using the network in these venues in a much more in-depth way to improve every aspect of that experience as a whole, be it how you buy your beer to the information that's displayed. If we've been even toying with, if you know that you've got a relative or a special guest in the stadium, put some messages up on the displays to recognize that people are there. And it's really easy for us to do that if we've got the insight and if we get that data from a platform like the Insight platform that Juniper are talking about today.
Yeah, because, a kiss cam moment, that could make the whole experience for everyone in the stadium, 20,000 people. In all honesty, I'm thinking about soccer in Europe because I've been watching a lot of Ted Lasso along with every other American. So I'm glad we're talking about sports right now. Let's talk about automation. Automation is a really hot topic right now, but it's so important as we think as IT professionals and about technology, how to balance the human element, which is so important, and incorporate that into how we build experiences. So how are you balancing automation and AI? How are you maintaining that human element in everything that you build?
Yeah, I think your point about listening to your customers is really important here. We have customers that never want to talk to a machine, and we can identify them and we can build journeys for them. But we have other customers, as you say, that never want to talk to a human. They just want to be able to press a button or make something happen. And we build journeys, multi-directional journeys through our IT and understand and personalize that. So our own, our MyEE app on that you get with a phone when you buy it from us can help you decide that journey. Automation for us, though, is how do we run and maintain the network whilst and give no interruption to customers. So through the pandemic, more of us became much more reliant on the network. And it was all about how do we build and grow and change the network in a way that customers never, ever feel that we've done it. And that was crucially important during the pandemic. And we learned huge about automation and the ways to deploy it, but also a different mindset about how do you build for automation? How do you build for the experience where in a world where everyone was dependent upon network, it just can't not be there. So that really changed our thinking. And actually, in some respects, the pandemic made us think differently than what we would have done and brought things forward because people were relying upon us in a bigger way than we ever imagined.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think during COVID, I think it's a silver lining for customer experience and for the whole business world that we had to be more digital. We had to think about the digital customer using our network, focusing more on online communication. And we had to really beef up what we were doing. And I think that it's, for me, the one positive, because of course, you and I have been advocates for customer experience in digital for many, many years. And now we've learned, okay, we can provide so many more experiences digitally than we thought we could. Let's talk about keeping things easy for customers and simple. You've talked about the fact that customers don't really like complication. How do you architect the network to make sure that you're reducing complexity, even though customer expectations are constantly changing? So we're in a very complex world, but we have to keep things simple. So how would you recommend others do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think in my mind, I always try and put myself into a customer's shoes. What type of customer, what type of persona is this customer? What data do we know about this customer? Who in our organization is like this customer that we're trying to work with? And then from that build the kind of, here is what we predict around this customer. Here's what we've seen before. Here's what, and in COVID, we went back to previous data to know how's the network going to perform as effectively the traffic doubled and the busy period of our network moved from the evening to the day because everybody was at home whilst lockdown was on. So it was all about using data and insight about how our customers behave, how the network behaves, and actually reaching out to our partners like Juniper and some of our other partners on the content side, people like Netflix, and saying, hey, we think we're going to see this. What do you think? And actually, I think customers appreciate it when you understand who they use in their ecosystem. Each customer has its own individual ecosystem. And the more that you can predict around that ecosystem and the more that you can build your own bridge in that ecosystem, then so much the better. And one simple thing that we did that was huge during the pandemic, we connected all of the Alexas that are on our network to be able to use our phone system. So you could dial from Alexa, and that for some of our customers was massive because it was an easy way for people to chat and communicate. And if you had the Alexa with screen, you could do video conferencing as well. And we recognized that was valuable because we could see those relationships and what people were doing in the network.
Yeah, Alexa on video actually babysat my daughter because I was pregnant. My daughter was home from preschool because they were closed. And we had no family around. So grandpa would entertain my daughter through the Alexa Echo on video. And honestly, it really helped a lot. 1 hour a day. I knew that I had that help for my daughter to teach her how to read. Let's talk about the evolving role of telco companies. I mean, telecom is a tough space. Customers demand these seamless zero friction customer experiences. How has telecom, how has it evolved, changed? What are your predictions?
Yeah, predictions. I mean, I think how has it changed? I think we've realized that, telecoms is very much milk the cow business. You had a cash cow and you milked it for all you could get. I think what we've realized, certainly over the last 3 or 4 years, and certainly being accelerated by the pandemic, that actually we've got to innovate and work with our customers, be it business or consumers. We've got to do much about being there for them. And in some respects, we've allowed competing companies, you could argue, lots of people argue that the hyperscalers are big telecommunication competitors. I actually think they're partners. But people say that, well, you've kind of been milking your cow whilst these guys have been going out, building huge platforms to take your customers away. So, we've learned that you've got to move with customers, and actually, to some extent, you might also have to push customers along a little bit, because for their own good and understanding what technology and what the power of telecommunications can do for them, both individually, but also as businesses. And that co-collaboration and building solutions with customers has become hugely important. And my prediction is, I see the network becoming more and more a part of our daily lives. We talk about cloudify, I talk about networkify, which is the network enabling new experiences for people that just wouldn't have been possible before. One of my proudest moments was a group of buskers and artists during the pandemic came together to put a song, it's about 100 of them, to put a song together over the network to raise money for COVID research and charity. That would never have happened without the network. And it's a phenomenal thing. And those sort of experiences, I want to see more and more of them. I want that to be a daily norm, that we see people like that coming together to really provide experiences that only the network can provide. And then taking that forward, I think we'll see the network becoming more important in healthcare. We'll see the network becoming more and more important in transportation, and actually everything that we do. I think the network will become more important, and I'm super excited about that. But it means that we need that insight. We need to know what's happening in the network so that we can build it, scale it, grow it, run it, and give it customers that excellent experience. So actually, Blake, they're not thinking about the telecommunication provider because everything's running really smoothly. That's kind of my vision.
Neil, I think that the things you're saying today will resonate with everybody watching, because we're all dealing with increased complexity while customers have more expectations from us, and we have to deliver on that expectation and almost be like a magician, like I talked about, working in the background where customers don't really think about us, but everything is just magically working and that's all they care about. Neil, I want to thank you for being with us today to share some of your insights about your work and your partnership with Juniper.
You're welcome. Thanks, Blake.
Actually, Neil, if you have a couple minutes, we do have some questions from the analysts. So let me just kind of fire a few at you. First of all, the first question is, delivering a differentiated experience is certainly a priority for operators like BT, but also a challenge. And you talked a little bit about that. Why is it a challenge, and what is BT doing about it to change that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge for many reasons. It can be as simple as I don't have coverage where I'm going or where I need to be, and we continually build out coverage and capability. But it can also be around how their device works, in the network. Some people are super technical, some people aren't. And one of the things we're doing, we've stood up, again, we did this just ahead of the pandemic, so in some respects, perhaps lucky, but we stood up a bunch of tech areas that allow our customers to understand and be educated on how they get the most out of the network. For us, our biggest challenge is, this won't surprise anybody, but it's about skill sets and hiring people that have got great technical knowledge, think customer first, think security first, and think, how they can build stuff that innovates and makes a difference and uses the network to do it. So from my perspective, the biggest challenge is getting those skills in and on board and being active to build what our customers are demanding from us.
That makes a lot of sense, and certainly it's a major shift for a lot of us that are moving in this direction. Another question, and you heard a little bit this morning about our focus around AI. How aggressive is BT with AI, and how do you balance that with possibly disrupting customer experience?
Yeah, look, I think you've got to experiment. I mean, if you're not experimenting, you might as well just, do something different. Experimentation is key, and actually that's the other thing that I think we as telcos have had to learn to do more of. We've always been slightly nervous about breaking things. Actually, with new cloud technology, it's easier to test stuff than it's ever been before, and it's easier to run things without it having a big impact. And that's one of the big benefits of our BT Network Cloud that Juniper is a huge partner of. I think the second part to that is BT has more patents in AI than any other company in the UK. We are leading at the front of AI. We've developed many AI-based solutions for our contact centers, for traveling and logistics, and we partner with people to test that AI and ensure it's making the outcome that we think it's making. One of the biggest challenges with AI is when you build it, the only test that you've got for it is the expert that you've got to say, well, is the AI doing it right or not? So you still need to have strong skills, you still need to have strong capabilities, but if you're building AI to service customers, you need to go out there and listen to customers and take feedback on how that's performing. And again, we've built AI to do that. So it's a never-ending journey, but I think, again, one of the other skill benefits is, if you're doing AI, don't have an AI department. Democratize AI, build it into all the curriculums of your engineers and the people that are working in marketing. Give them the power to use AI, and then use their own expertise and intelligence to put two and two together. But for us, one of the biggest aspects of the pandemic, day one, our Prime Minister Boris Johnson on TV, and our AI changed a whole chunk of traffic path throughout the network because we had a whole load of people wanting to watch him to understand what was going on. We couldn't have done that. Humans could not have done it. And we would have provided a bad experience had it not been for AI. So for us, as the network gets more complicated because of the demands that our customers are putting on it, AI is in our future. We really don't have a choice because humans aren't fast enough. And I've talked to Juniper, teams about this before. What triggered this for us was the Olympics in 2012 when we hosted them in London. Usain Bolt took 10 seconds to run 100 meters. And we didn't know in that 10-second period whether anyone had seen it, because the tooling and the systems back then just couldn't cope with a quantum of 10 seconds. Customer satisfaction quantum is less than a second. And if you're not building a platform that can cope second by second, even millisecond by millisecond, to understand what's going on for your customers, you're in trouble. And that's very much the mindset that we've had in BT and jointly with Juniper.
I may have to steal that quote, Neil. That was really wise about the customer kind of satisfaction quantum. Okay, last question. It's a big question, and unfortunately, I need a short answer. So the question is about service provider revenues. Have been challenged to grow, but we know there are many opportunities. So from your perspective, what can operators like BT do to better monetize their network investment and/or find new sources of revenue?
Look, I mentioned some of that in the discussion with Blake. How do we take the network beyond where we've taken it before, and how do we enable it in ways that people haven't thought about? So I use my Wembley Stadium, use case where from the minute you get off a train to the minute you're sitting in the seat, we're using the network to make your whole experience better, using video, using sensors, using the fact that, what you paid with, where your phone is, taking all of that data, working with the stadium as a partner, working with the transportation systems as a partner, and building the easiest solution so that you're never worried, you're never thinking about when's that train going to turn up, or am I going to get to the bar and get my hot dog quickly? Am I going to miss some of the game? Using all of that in symphony and orchestrating it in a way that provides an outstanding customer experience. Customers will, you heard it from Blake, customers will pay for that, and we believe we can grab onto a big chunk of that cash.
Well, thank you so much, Neil. And Blake, I'll turn it back over to you to kind of transition to our next guest.
Thank you, Neil. I've really enjoyed hearing from you. And I think all of us can imagine what that 10 seconds with Usain Bolt looked like. And you were probably sweating a little bit, worried that things weren't working out. But that's the job of running the network. It's very high pressure, almost as high pressure as being Usain Bolt sprinting in front of, 5 million people.